Okay, hey, welcome to this week's episode of Kuden Radio, the podcast for us, right? So, serious martial artists, self-defense, students, uh, you know, those of us who want to use these lessons to create the life that we've always dreamed of living, or we want to be living more of, right? And having those skills and abilities necessary for protecting that life from anything that might harm it, right? So that's what I've distilled down over. We'll not talk about how many decades of training. Anyway, so I've been thinking about this idea of warriorship, and we've been talking about a bunch of different things, personality traits, hindrances, those kind of things. But I want to make sure that I'm not losing folks who need things to be dressed up a certain way, right? So tonight we'll specifically talk about one of the lineages. That way I can throw in some Japanese language, and we'll talk about things directly from the scrolls, right? That way, right? It kind of helps those who need that, right? To be happy, to be satisfied with the training, because sometimes very often in these episodes, I mention things along the way, but it's not always wrapped in a nice package for folks that need things to be packaged a certain way. And I believe that most of you are not that way, especially those of you who have been binge listening to these things, and we really appreciate it. But I want to make sure that, if that's what it takes for people to tune in, then that's fine, right? But what we're going to be doing during this episode is taking a look at a key principle that shows up in both the battlefield, right, the combat kind of training side of things, and the life mastery side of things. Within the Gyokko school, and how this kind of stuff has kind of popped up, and how it often is confusing to people who tend to approach the training from a very lopsided, unbalanced way, right? They're actually contradicting the lessons, right? But anyway, we'll talk about that and more after we officially get started. So, the big question is this: how are self-defense and success-minded people like us, concerned citizens worried about protecting ourselves, our loved ones, and the things we care about from the monsters we know exist in the world? How do we train in a way that gives us the skills, knowledge, and understanding we need without becoming paranoid fighters or killers ourselves, and yet still allows us to be the hero protector the world needs us to be? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Jeffrey Miller, and welcome to Kuden Radio, real training for real people in a real world. All right, and we're back, episode 198. Two more, right? 2 more weeks, James. That should be what? Mid-March, we will hit episode 200. So I don't know. What we're planning to do. I'm not going to dress up like a ninja elf going to Mardi Gras or anything like that, because Mardi Gras is already over. So, well, you've missed your chance. Anyway, I don't know what I'm going to do. Anyway, but we'll pop things in and see how it goes. Anyway, so quick admin things here before we get started. And again, for those of you who are listening to this, I don't know, at least past February 28th of 2024, then at least one of these won't matter. But I want to get these things out so that they're ready to go. And you know what? Even before I do that, again, I'd really, really appreciate if folks could, whatever platform you're on, right? Give these things like a thumbs up, give it a like, share it, right? Don't get distracted by things or whatever, but help us get this information out to others who are looking for this kind of thing and could benefit from it, right? I couldn't care less if it ends up on somebody's scroll feed that has a completely different perception or perspective on what's right or how things should be done or what's official or whatever. They're not the ones that I'm doing this stuff for, right? So I'm doing this stuff for folks that are looking for, deep level understanding of things, right? So anyway, Admin number one is a quick reminder, because this will be our last chance to get this out to most of you, right? If you're not on one of our email lists, or you're not in one of the programs that we have, like Nimbo Mastermind, or the Realm of the Warrior Tactician that we've, that's rounding up here in the next 2 weeks. You're not in any of those, right? This Wednesday, right? So 2 nights from now, right? From 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time, I am doing a Foundations of Shuriken Mastery workshop. One, because people have been asking for things like this, right? Two, it's going to be a new kickoff on a weapon series that I'll be doing. And three, especially concerning the Shuriken, I'm tired of people throwing things like it's a damn frisbee, right? Or like they're going to Joe Cool Billy Bob's axe throwing, live bait, and live barbecue, or live barbecue. That would be, I'd hear a lot of screaming. Anyway, so what I mean by that is this stuff was designed to be used against an assailant who was in motion, not a stationary target. Does that mean no, of course not, right? Of course, right? You got to start someplace. So we're going to be looking at that. We're going to be looking at 2 ways to translate the word shuriken. We're going to be looking at everything from how to hold it for throwing to different throwing methods. And I don't mean horizontal and vertical. Actually, 2 horizontal methods for throwing it, right? And what else are we doing? Handheld use, right? It's going to fly by, right? The 2 hours are going to fly by. We're going to get as much in there as possible. But anybody that signs up for it, I'm also giving them a digital copy of my my Shuriken training manual, right? Which goes into things much more deeply, and things that we're not going to be able to fit into the workshop. But either way, right? That's there. OnlineNinjaAcademy.com/events is where you find all this stuff. But there's that. And then also our spring camp is now on the schedule. And so that is April 26th, 27th, and 28th. And there is a 30% discount, something like that, that's going on right now. If people get enrolled before March 1st, I think. Right. So anyway, so that's it. Get that stuff out of the way, right? Pay the bills, right? Because these free things for everybody are not free for me. But either way, right? So anyway, all right. So we are going to be talking about a principle concept from the Gyokko school, right? The Gyokko-Ryu, right? And we're going to look at it from 2 different sides. So if you've been, are a regular, right? If you're a follower, listener, you will have heard me speak on several of these concepts. Obviously, I'm going to have to kind of catch it up, because every episode I kind of have to do this as though I'm doing it for the first time for folks, because there are folks on for the first time. But for a lot of you, a lot of these things will start to tie together. They'll start to connect, which is a cool thing, right? But here's the thing, right? We have talked about in the past about, there's a question that's actually on the curriculum for my students between white belt and Shodan, first degree black belt. I believe it's in mod 4, where we ask the question, what's the difference between a fighter, a soldier, and a warrior? Is that mod 4, James? Yeah. James, you can't see James right now. He's just lurking in the background, nodding. I can see him. You can't see him. So anyway, so there's perspective differences. There's a shit ton of difference, right? But what we're talking about are things that are not on the Densho, right? What it's been my experience over the last 40 plus years, just in this martial art, that most people, by and large, want to focus on what's on the Densho, which is the step-by-step kind of written out techniques, as though that's the lineage. No, the techniques are what the principles and concepts embodied and focused on by that lineage look like in a combat situation, right? But there's a whole other side to things, right? And all those principles and concepts, and what like the fuel behind, right? The fuel behind the vehicle, so to speak, right? is on the makimono, right? Is in a whole different section, right? And so, but that doesn't just hold like it's not instructions for how to do the kata, right? It's important pieces like Gyokko-Ryu, right? Um, Gyokko-Ryu techniques tend to finish with a stomping action, right, on the person's body or a collapsing, colliding action. And this isn't unique to Gyokko-Ryu. There are several lineages that we have within the Bujinkan that have this kind of thing, but you'll often see a heel stomp kick while there's a Kansetsu Waza, right, a joint lock on the arm, pinning the person in place. And then there's this heel stomp kick, rib cage, big old pocket, in the armpit where you're accessing the lungs and all kinds of nerve bundles and whatnot, sternum, head, whatever, right? And it's to debilitate the person once they're down, right? So this is one of those little core things, right? There's a bunch of things like this, right? Every school has them, but this is a Gyokko-Ryu thing. Another principle of Gyokko-Ryu is moving at the absolute last second, right? So it's like a trap, right? And if you understand the thing there, and I'm sure most of you do, right? If you understand what's happening there, this isn't just to catch them off balance with their body. This is to catch their mind and then let that cascade into an emotional kind of thing, right? Because the harder or the more movements we have to do, or they have to do, right? The more frustration that occurs because there's more things that can go wrong, right? The more, what's that old saying? The more complicated the pipes, or the more complicated the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the pipes, so to speak, right? So, the more moves you have to do, the more complicated things are. That equates to more frustration, more anxiety. That then equates to actual physical tension, right? Which equates to the body not being able to move as quickly, right? As it would if we didn't have that kind of stuff going on, right? So there are all these little cool things that are in there. But I want to take a look at something tonight that, like a lot of these, but this one's much more obvious, I think, crosses over the bridge between the tiger realm and the dragon realm, right? So for those of you who aren't familiar with those, for those of you who are, you have to pardon me for a second so I can get everybody else caught up. But the tiger realm is a reference to the side of our training, the skill sets that are for the battlefield, that are for the back alley, right? That's the stuff that most people focus on, right? Self-defense, fighting, whatever, right? All the cool weapons, all the cool tools, right? But the dragon realm are the skill sets needed to be successful in society, in a relationship, in your family, right? And many more, one of which we'll talk about tonight, right? So there's a saying, and there's a, it's not that you won't find these things in Koto-Ryu as well, because Koto and Gyoko are complementing opposites, right? It was a singular body of knowledge that was passed down at a certain point, right? They were the stuff was cataloged and formatted and laid out to produce these two schools, right? But they're if you understand what you're looking at, right, as you go up through the Gyokko-Ryu, you hit what looks like the top, but there's almost like a metamorphosis where you end up in the Koto-Ryu or Koto-Ryu stuff. Same thing, Koto-Ryu, right? Coming up through, and what looks like the highest level stuff there is actually kind of the start of the Gyokko-Ryu, right? So, and again, most people, it, the stuff really has been changed over the years for the masses, right? I mean, how Fatsumi Sensei had a goal of getting a certain number of people into this art, right? One of the things you have to do, whether anybody thinks this is fair or not, this is basic human psychology and a ninja master understanding how to use that to accomplish a goal. And that is formulating or laying things out in a way that will draw the most number of people. Okay. I don't have the same number of people in my programs because I don't regurgitate, I don't throw up dozens or hundreds of techniques, right? In our modules, right? We have a couple of example techniques. We have keyhones and variations, but there's not just this shit, right? If you go to a self defense website where they're promising, you know, to teach you 1 or 6 or whatever techniques that within 30 minutes you'll be able to kick the ass of any attacker ever, right? And you buy that for $12.95. There's immediately an upsell where they're going to give you 30 or 300 or whatever more techniques. What the fuck? Excuse my language. But if the 6 you were just selling me for $12.95 were going to handle any attacker in 30 minutes or less, what the hell do I need these for? But people buy them like hotcakes. And then the next upsell is, oh, by the way, here's a weapons DVD with 50 or 500 techniques or whatever. And, you know, for $27.95 or whatever, right? You can get that. People buy that shit left and right. There's people in this art that have programs where here's 30 years worth of techniques and 30, you know, whatever training and stuff for the low price of. Well, great. Most people barely have enough time to fucking do their Sanshin and Kyonapo practice during a week, but they buy it with no thought, right? So, right? But there's a difference between having it and being able to use it. It's kind of like Ichimonji no Kata, right? It's a difference between being able to duplicate the dojo and understanding what that is a model of, what it's an example of, right? Let's translate kata, right? And it's a kihon, right? Part of the Kyonapo. It's a kihon. What does kihon mean? Well, since a kihon means fundamental. Well, great. There's a huge difference between being able to translate a word and understanding what's being meant. I just had a discussion with somebody online about this kind of thing, and we were on the same sheet of music, but it just happened to be one of these things where you know, people were talking about. Oh, as a matter of fact, it was on climate stuff, right? And I'm you know, I have my own stuff based on my own research and whatnot. But people jump on that bandwagon like the solutions that are being postulated are one size fits all. You imagine, okay, your wife or husband or whatever goes out to the store and buys an outfit and comes home and goes, hey, we can share. Okay. And you may be in that group that's okay for, but right, there's also other things there are other ramifications that are coming out of that. But the discussion we had was based on whether it's wind, whether it's sun or whatever, there are certain geographical areas on this planet, right? Even in the United States, right? Where those things are going to work. And in other places, not so much, right? Because they don't have the same winds that are, you know, they can go days or weeks without a wind enough to get those things moving. Or same thing with sun and cloud cover, right? Shit. The time I visited Ireland, and I can't wait to go back and visit my Irish friends. I went over to speak at a conference in Dublin, and my wife were touring around Dublin and whatnot. And I love old Irish folk songs, right? The stuff you hear in pubs and that kind of stuff, right? Old stuff. And there was a phrase or an idea that shows up, different wording, but it's the same thing, right? And it alludes to the rare blue sky, right? In Ireland. Okay. Well, anybody that lives there or lives in the UK or whatever, right? You know what I'm talking about. If you live in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, you know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, my friends in the Pacific Northwest, I think they gauge beauty based on the wrinkles that they have because they get a rain tan instead of a suntan, right? Because it rains so much, right? But same idea, right? If you're trusted, again, without deep understanding, and it's not that you have to go to school and become an engineer or a PhD or whatever. I hate those fucking arguments as well. Like, I'm not smart enough to study the same things, but not have a need for a piece of paper that says I learned something. Okay. And that's, I mean, anyway. So um, there's this there's this there's this disconnect, right? That people get all wrapped up in the technique, but each lineage, right? And sometimes each scroll set in a lineage, right? There's a difference in distance. What's the distance? The Densho doesn't spell out the distance. What's the timing? Densho doesn't spell out the timing. Okay. What's the end game? It's not just a whoop ass thing. It's not just to lop his head off. Some schools are like that. Right? In the Gyokko-Ryu, you're supposed to take away his ability to fight, right? First of all, you're supposed to do everything you can to avoid fighting. Okay? Even in the face of your enemy, right? You engage with your enemy with a smile on your face. Okay? We're going to go much more deeply into that here shortly, but you do everything you can to avoid fighting. But if you have to fight, right, you put him down without him being able to touch you. Now, wait a minute, Sensei. There are some techniques on the Densho where he grabs you first, right? I'm thinking like Dan Shi, Dan Shu. Those guys. What the hell? Well, the Gyokko-Ryu also has a thing in the Makimono for never getting caught on one foot. But one of the Kihon Kamae is what? Hicho no Kamae. You're on one foot. Because there's an ideal, and then there's the, oh yeah, just in case life happens, right? Here's this thing, right? So we need to be careful, right? But again, it's easier, right, to talk about being a warrior than it is to want to learn all about what it means to be a warrior from people who lived that lifestyle or currently live that lifestyle fully. What I mean by that is fantasy's a whole lot easier than reality, and learning that we might need to be more responsible. We might need to be more focused. We might need to be more educated, whatever. Okay. Anyway, so again, I'm going to focus on a particular principle. I know I just threw a bunch out, but those were just to give you a, for instance, right? Focus on a principle that shows up in both realms, right? For self-protection, personal combat, and for being successful in life. It's the same principle, and it still has to do with conflict, but right, shows up on both sides. Okay. And for a lot of folks, this isn't going to sound maybe the way they think it should be done, or the way their teacher told them. I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell everybody else. Not my fault. Okay. Passing this stuff on the way I got it, the way it was translated to me, and from multiple directions, right? So remember, the same knowledge runs through the Bujinkan, the Genbukan, and the Jininkan. Might be translated a little bit differently, but it's not translated like opposite or out in left field or whatever. What I mean is it's explained maybe a little bit differently. But the Kodsu, right, one of the 4 key pieces of understanding this art, right? Any skill, any technique, whether it's life or battlefield, the Kodsu, the essential nature of the lesson, stays the same. Okay. But first, right, we'll bring James in here and see who we've got on, who might already have questions or comments or whatever. So, what do you got, James? Hey, look, it's James.
Dave said good evening.
Hey, Dave. Long time no see. Again, still.
Trinity said hi. Jimmy said konbanwa.
Who?
Jimmy.
Jimmy. Konbanwa. So this day.
Somebody over on YouTube that has the named Hero said waved high.
Waved high?
Waved high.
Oh, waved high.
That's what it says. Waving.
For those of you on audio only, I apologize. I just did my little, the little hands that you can buy, the suction cup, and stick them onto your dash, and it just kind of, waves when the car hits a pothole. Anyway, cool beans. Any questions or comments up to this point?
No, sir.
No? So who else do we have on other than those who spoke up? Or do we not know? Can we not see them?
Not sure.
No. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So let's keep on going. All right. So the principle that, we'll start on the side that everybody tends to like the most, right? And that is on the combat side. Okay. So the way it, and again, if the words are different, people can often not see that it's the same thing. And this is why in the spiritual traditions, they often call it like insight, prajna, in Japanese, hanya, right? Third eye, whatever. It doesn't mean like, right, this thing opens up like in a sci-fi movie or whatever. It's being able to see beyond the surface. It's a huge skill, right? Just like in the old days, there was no video, right? There may not have been more than a couple of demonstrations of the technique with your teacher. Imagine being with your teacher, and you're the only student, right? Like you go to visit this person who knows stuff, and they're going to teach you this technique, and they might demonstrate it once in the air, just so you can see the step by step. But there are no other students there, which means you're also the uke. And so you get to feel the technique, but it's really difficult to see how the bodies come together. Excuse me. So modern students, I think, have one kind of a misguided understanding about the way things were always passed down. And two, they're jaded because, right, this stuff was developed decades, if not hundreds of years before the dojo concept itself came about, where teachers actually advertised for students, right? And these teachers, of course, were warriors who now, right, it's 100 years of enforced peace. It's the only skill I have. How am I going to make money to feed myself, feed my family, right? Pay the bills, whatever, right? So for all those people in today's world that are like, oh, if you have a dojo and you're doing this, this, and this and making money off of it, you're a piece of shit. Well, then perhaps your spiritual or lineage past masters are the same thing. I mean, you can't say it in one direction and then justify that it's okay in another, right? Truth is truth, regardless of which side it's on. That goes for political divides, that goes for religions, that goes for martial arts styles or whatever, right? But ego likes to play its little game. So, but anyway, so what we're looking at here is the idea that I mentioned part of this before, right? When he attacks, if you have no other choice and you need to do this, right? When he attacks, right, you crush him, right? You dominate him, but you save his life. The hell's up with that, right? So I'll talk about that in a minute, but here's this idea, right? So, and I mentioned something else before, right? The ideal is to be able to do this without him being able to touch you. Okay. So this is not the same mentality as getting into a ring and duking it out for 2-minute rounds, 5-minute rounds, whatever, trading shots, right? Willing to take one to get one, that kind of 2 steps outside the cave kind of mentality, right? This is, one of my teachers used to call this enlightened self-protection, right? Because it requires a little bit more aptitude, right? It requires that you're able to think strategically, tactically, right? to understand the techniques outside of the moves. Okay? Of course, we all start someplace, but the difference between mastery and the beginner is the process, right? And being able to be shown or discover or develop the ability to see and understand things that the average person cannot, right? They can't, right? They have no idea. They either have no idea that it's going on, or they've seen it, but they dismiss it. You know, these jackwagons online that leave all their flaming comments on videos and whatnot. Not just mine, everybody's, right? They just dismiss it, right? If you ever want to really do some research into how to beat the conventional attacker, okay, or people from specific fighter style mentalities, go down through the comments and take note of tactics and strategies that these people think are bullshit. Okay. Now you need to be able to look at techniques yourself and know what's a good technique. It may be rough around the edges, it may be from a different style or whatever, but that's strategically and tactically sound, and I can make that work. Just needs to be fixed here, or we would do it this way or whatever. But that's usable, okay? And one that'll get you killed. So you need to know that. But take note of what these people are saying is bullshit, because what they're telling you is, one, they don't know how to do it. Two, they don't train to be able to defend against it. And three, they always fight a certain way. So this thing will come from outside of their perceptual realm, right? And take them completely by surprise. Okay? Don't just, write them off. Don't just get into an argument with them. Okay. Let them tell you, right? And part of this lineage, these lineages, part of it is an understanding how to let your opponent show you how to beat him, because he can't throw something at you. Fists, feet, knives, bullets, words, ideology, whatever. He can't throw something at you without exposing himself. You just need to know what you're looking for. But if you're too busy ducking the punches, the words, or whatever, or he slings, you sling, you're playing the yeah but game or whatever, then you better rely on something called Kuden a lot. Kuden, right? Luck. Right? So anyway, right? The concept here is, again, right? I'm going to dominate him, but I'm going to save his life. Right? Why would I do that? Right? This guy can just get up, go to his pickup, grab the shotgun, and come back, or whatever. Right? Meet me another day. Now he knows how I fight. Now he knows how not if I know my techniques correctly. Okay, and this is why, again, one of the rules of thumb across the board is 10 seconds or less, 4 moves or less, right? But the ninpo part of the training is that I execute my techniques. I do what I'm doing while he's busy doing something else, right? First thing a student learns is to deliver the counter strike, the kanagash, right? While you're busy evading, while you're shifting into kamae. Because psychologically, he's busy missing. And if we're doing this Gyokko style and we're moving at the last possible second, then everything from his body to his brain to his emotional set was bracing for impact. Right? As far as he's concerned, at that moment in time, the hit's a foregone conclusion. It's just going to happen. And when it doesn't happen, everything changes, right? But we're delivering Counter-Strike at that moment, and then we're right into the next move. So every move becomes the proverbial puff of smoke that we see in a ninja movie, right? It becomes the proverbial puff of smoke or the proverbial smoke screen that hides the next move, right? His brain is too busy chasing the thing that just happened to see the thing that's going to happen, unless we put too much time between one move and the next move and the next move. And that's a problem if we're always doing soft training, we're always doing slow training, we're always doing whatever, right? We're always doing static, step by step. And you can tell when things have or have not been integrated into people's response mechanism, right? Into their flinch response. And you see it when they do randori or sparring, right? How close does it look to the thing that they're supposed to be studying, right? We're going to be focusing on this during tomorrow night's class for the folks that are in my Inner Circle program and my Nimbo Masterclass program. We're going to be focusing on Ichimonji no Kata, which everybody thinks they know. But here's a spoiler alert. What I'm going to be focusing on is Ichimonji no Kata is a kihon, right? Everybody knows this. They say it all the time. Oh, I know that. Yeah, that's one of those kihon appo. What? Okay, again, I know it. Left brain intellectually, right? But can my body cash the check that my mouth or my head is writing? Okay. And so the thing we're going to be focusing on tomorrow night is this come I first, come I last, come I always, but training with that to the point where it becomes the flinch response. It becomes the instinctive thing, right? The phrase second nature is bullshit. Okay. It doesn't become second nature. It becomes first nature. It becomes the thing that we do. Somebody says, boo, right? Your body shifts that way, right? That becomes the new flinch response, right? It's not second nature, third nature, eighth nature. This is right. This is the thing. And how do we use it? Do we understand it? Or have we just gotten good at this one model and a couple of variations that look really close? Okay. So anyway, that's tomorrow, right? But the thing that's going on here is not just how we're taking them down, the little stomp at the end or whatever, right? It doesn't stop there. What you are doing with this technique is you are taking this person to the point where they know that you have them physically, mentally, and in their heart. They know they're going to die. They know that you own them. And then you give them back their life. Several things can occur, right? And again, Gyokko-Ryu ideal, right? Does that mean you never kill them? No, because there'll be a look in their eye, right? Then a couple minutes later, or they'll start doing bullshit tomorrow, whatever. That will require a different decision next time. But it's been my experience that person gets so affected in their heart that they're not coming back. Okay. And I'll share a story that kind of works with this. And some of you may have already heard it, so I apologize. But again, this one just fits. I got out of the military for the first time. I was actually out for 7 months. Going to become a civilian police officer, and I traveled for hundreds of miles taking tests and things like that. And the job market was just oversaturated, so I went back in and did another tour. But I got out with my family, and we just the apartment that we were setting up and all that kind of stuff, everything fell through. So we ended up staying with some friends. I had no idea that this guy. We had no idea that this guy had anger management issues, right? And so anyway, there's this day, everything's going well. And he's going to take a nap. But he says, I got to call my mom at whatever time it was, right? So could you wake me up if I'm not already awake? Could you just, wake me up? I can't be late for this because she has something she has to do. Sure, no problem, right? So his wife tries waking him up. He doesn't stir, right? And we're starting to get concerned, like, is this guy, is he in a coma? Is he, whatever? Because there's no stirring. There's breathing, but he's not waking up. And finally he does. And he just screams like an animal. And he's got these work boots on, like these hikers or whatnot, steel toe boots and whatnot. And he's laying on a couch. And so the sofa, the piece of furniture, right, is to his left side, right? And so he takes his right leg, and through all this screaming, he's just swinging this leg up and kicking the wall, right? Finally jumps up out of this sofa, this couch, and storms off out of the living room, down the hall, into the kitchen. And my wife at the time, couldn't help herself. Always the negotiator, always trying to calm things down. I think it's a noble trait. But she went in and she's trying to calm him down and trying to reason with him. And all of a sudden, I stayed in the living room. I'm going to let this negotiation happen first. And all of a sudden I hear, "Don't you ever hit me again," from her. Well, then I found myself in the kitchen and I'm trying to calm him down. And all of a sudden he growled, right? He roared and came at me. And then a little bit of a wind Yoda action and a headlock later. Then he's trying to kick at my legs and all that stuff. And I put his head into a position that was not anatomically conducive to well-being. It was just locked. I didn't do anything major, but his ear was turned enough to me that I could lean in and, about this tone, say, "If you don't stop moving, I'm going to kill you." And then I applied just a little bit more pressure to his neck, and he stopped. And I said, "I'm going to let you go, and you're going to go calm down." And of course, when I let go, he stormed out of the room, went and slammed himself into another room or whatever, came out later, tried to play things off like nothing ever happened or whatever. But obviously I kept my eye on him, right? Because now I know this guy's, he's kind of leans in this direction, right? Well, anyway, maybe 2 days later, we had a friend over. There was a mutual friend that came over, and we're all laughing and having a good time or whatever. And as a matter of fact, the friend was drinking a soda, except back then they weren't plastic, right? Old timers know they were glass, right? And he was just holding this thing, and he said something. We all laughed because he didn't realize that what he said was kind of stupid, right? So we all laughed. And my wife at the time, same one, right, made this comment, and he pulled the bottle back, and I recognized it as he's just screwing around, right? Pulled it back like he was going to throw it. And this guy that I had in a headlock 2 days before came out of the chair that he was sitting in. Like, I didn't even move, right? Came out of the chair that he was sitting in, bolt upright, at this guy with his hands out, palms out, fingers stretched. Don't. And the guy said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "No, you don't understand. Don't even joke." Okay? And we maintained a friendship until I went back in the military. But the point is that this is not winning or losing a fight the way most people win and lose fights. This is not that kind of thing. This is people say, "I put the fear of God in him." No, I put the fear of me in him. The next time he comes at me, he better want to and plan to and have a really good fucking plan to kill me. Because I didn't just say the words. I didn't just have him in a lock. This is Budo. This is not Bushido or whatever these other people like to use, throw this word around because they don't believe in the style or what, it doesn't fit their criteria or whatever, right? This is reaching beyond someone, the surface of their body. Not, you haven't even touched them with your hands yet. In this case, I just had them in a restraint. This is reaching in their mind and in their soul. Right? And then giving them the gift of their life back. Right? There are stories throughout our lineages. Hatsumi Sensei has told them. There's stories that are second, third hand or whatever from Takamatsu Sensei. I've heard them from Shoto Tanemura, from the Genbukan. He trained with Takamatsu Sensei. He was Hatsumi Sensei's cousin. So he trained with him way back in the day. And there are these stories about, these people just being brutal enemies. And then they had this little moment and they walked away friends afterwards. Right. And sometimes it was a mutual kind of thing. And other times it was somebody had to be taught a lesson and then they became your biggest advocate because they'd rather be on your side than not. And sometimes they just go away because that was just this little micro experience. And they don't want to know what else you have in your freaking bag. They don't want to know what else you have in your toolkit. Okay? Because that was fucking terrifying enough. Okay? But this is not fantasy land. This is not, and again, people hear me laughing and chuckling and having a good time. Hatsumi Sensei, right? A lot of people don't take him seriously because, that's not how martial arts grandmasters act. No, that's how very confident, powerful people act because they don't have a need to walk around with their fucking chest puffed out and threatening people all the time and things like that. If words like that come out, in the words of Jack Hoban, a switch has been flipped and we are coldly professional. The job gets done and then we go back to enjoying our lives. Right? Because this is still all about balance. Right? So can you see this balance that's going on? Right? You have, and this is something that it's Takagi Yoshin has it, right? The level above being able to take somebody's balance, right? When you do that, when you take them, right? They're done, right? But there's a level of ability above that. And it's the level of ability you have to be able to attain to. Otherwise, every one of your training partners are going to get busted up, or you're going to relegate yourself to lower levels of training and ability. You're going to hang out in the realm of soft training or slow training or step-by-step or whatever, because you can't get to that level because you're going to end up breaking this person. No, there is a level beyond you doing the technique and your partner being able to take ukemi, right? Because I can already hear it. I hear it across the void, right? Well, that's why your uke can take ukemi. No, the level above, if your partner can take ukemi, you're not there yet. Because there's this level above that where you execute the technique in a way that they can't take ukemi. But now you got a problem. How the hell do you practice with anyone if they can't take ukemi? So there's a level above that where the moment I realize my partner can't take ukemi, or I'm going to give this person their life back. Because the moment you take them and they can't take ukemi, they know it. They know that they know it's done. They fully expect the end. This is not trading shots. This is not winning a check or a trophy. This is This is a one and done kind of thing, right? So the level above that is to be able to do that, but gear down at the last second. So one, you can save an uke, and you can train at those levels so that when you take your uke and they can't save themselves, they're going to crash and burn. But you can gear things down and save them. You can help you become their ukemi, right? But that's what allows you to take someone and then get. But now I have choice, right? Now I have choice, because if I've learned other skills, I've read this person. Is this technique even valid for this particular attacker? Or is this just going to feed the vendetta wagon and I'm going to have to look over my shoulder for the rest of my life? And the shoulders of all my family members and friends. Well, since that's impossible. Okay. So, again, for a lot of folks, they're going to have to come to grips with how far they want to take this stuff. Because, again, there's the training in skills, there's a passing on in skills, but there's a whole other side of the training that's on the other side of the skin, the other side of the skull and bones for each one of us. Okay? It's not just training to move the parts. There's the intention. There's the resolve. There's the commitment. There's the responsibility. There's a video I just did, personal development lesson for week 13 for the folks going through the realm of the tactical warrior, that talks about duty. Their duty as a warrior, right? And a lot of people, again, they throw the word warrior around, but anyway, right? Again, you can use whatever words you want. We've talked about that in the past, right? Okay. Doesn't make it so. Anyway, so on the combat side, what you have is this, it's balance. I have the ability to take life, right? To most people on the omote side, right? My skill set in being able to take life or restrain somebody or whatever is at the same time the ability to protect life. They come together, right? Because I'm a warrior and not just a fighter or whatever, right? The skills are there to protect life, but the skill set gives me the capability of taking life, right? So there's a shit ton of responsibility in there, right? But at the same time, there's the ability to take it. In one instance, I'm talking about two different people, right? The omote side is I'm talking about two different people that I'm affecting in the exact same moment. One person gets affected from the perspective, the side of the yin yang that has to do with taking life. But simultaneously, one or more people are being affected in the same instant on the other side of the yin yang, or on the other side of the mountain, or the other side of the coin, whatever, that has to do with protecting life. Okay? But the Uda to this is with the enemy, the assailant, the opponent. Right? In the same instant, I can take it or I can give it back. But here's the thing from the Gyokko school. You give it back once they know, right? The lesson has been conveyed, right? This is not I did a little psych out punch or I geared down the throw and they knew that everything slowed down and I caught them and things like that. No. They need to understand, absolutely, without a doubt, that you gave them their life back. Okay? Again, it's Budo, right? So I'll talk about the other side here in a minute, right? And I'll open things up to questions in just a minute as well. But again, this all goes back to understanding this idea surrounding the name of the school, Gyokko, right? Gyokko is a contraction of Gyoku-ko, right? Gyoku-ko, Gyokko, right? So Gyokko means jeweled or jade tiger. Okay? I've discussed this in past trainings and whatnot, but again, to make sure everybody's caught up, we understand what a tiger is, right? In the ancient world, right? If we understand this phrase, Koteki Ryoda, Koteki Ryoda. Koteki means the tiger below. Ryoda means the dragon above. Okay? If you've ever seen these scrolls or there's martial arts patches and whatnot, where you've got this tiger, it's usually it's superimposed over a yin yang or whatever. And again, symbology, but it goes way deeper than that, right? But if you look at the way the tiger is drawn and painted, and the image that I created for today's thing was an expedient. I didn't pull that out and put that together that way. But if you can kind of soften your gaze as you look at the characters, right? The tiger is standing on a rock or an outcrop or a kind of a plateau or whatever, right? And if you look at the shape of the tail around through its body and then its head hooking back up around almost toward the tail, roaring in that direction, and then the dragon is coming out of the clouds, but it's doing the same thing and roaring back at the tiger. It's creating a yin yang all by itself. You don't need to superimpose this on a yin yang. It's right there, right? But the trick is that these two keep each other in balance. One of these without the other is disastrous. Okay? It's not that it's not functional, but for a warrior, it's disastrous. Okay? So these are two different realms, right? This realm of the tiger, way back in ancient Japan, way back in the ancient world, right? In the East, the tiger was considered to be the most powerful creature on the phenomenal plane, right? The natural realm, in the material world, right? The dragon was seen to be the most powerful creature in the spiritual realm. Whether dragons actually ever existed or not, whatever. Okay. But it was this idea, right? So you had this omote ura, or right, left kind of idea. You had skills for the battlefield, skills for society, right? Because if all you have are battlefield skills, how are you going to carry yourself through society in between wars? Okay. Everybody's training for war, but they don't handle arguments with their spouse very well, or they're easily manipulated, or whatever, right? Martial arts is my life. Great. Get a better job. Stop bitching you have money. Stop blaming everybody else in the world for being being corrupt or whatever. That's the only reason why they have what they have. I'm not playing them. I'm not following the fucking rules. I'm, whatever. Okay. Well, when you're ready to understand natural laws and principles and concepts and how things work and how human beings operate and whatnot, then maybe we can cross to the other divide and produce results over there too. Okay. Anyway, so let's do this. James, any questions or comments or anything that's popped up while I was yammering there?
The only thing that's come in is from Hero over on YouTube. Just said it's respect.
What's respect? We're talking about respecting the opponent? Okay, because there's things in the martial arts and there's things in Budo and whatnot that talks about respect and how you respect even your enemy, that kind of thing, right? So again, there's an omote side to that, right? Like within the samurai realm, and it's not that this happened all the time, but respect for your enemy, um, conventionally, idealistically, meant that if after I cut him down, I didn't spit on his corpse, I didn't kick his body, that kind of stuff, right? Made sure he got a decent burial or whatever. But see, I have issues with that, because how does that explain grabbing heads and dropping them in bags and taking them back so you could prove how many of the enemy you killed? Where do you think the word head count came from? Right? We're getting a head count. Right? It's a whole lot easier to carry back a bunch of heads and stuff. But there's this other part, right? And this is a huge thing in samurai history, where they'd bring the head back and they put it on a platter, tray, whatever, and they would dress it up. They would do the hair, they put some makeup on it, whatnot. The guy's dead, right? It's his fucking skull, right? And they would parade each of these, right? Killed leaders, whatever, in front of the winning leader. And he would, he and his generals or whatever would look at them, pay reverence, respect them for their willingness to die for their beliefs and ideology before sending them on. But then what happens after you send them on? Well, we need to trade for another head. So they get dumped, right? So right, there's the ideal and the shit written down in the books, but then, right? Anyway, but also there's the lesson that it's not just about the respect that most people think of. Again, we have to be careful when we read about certain things, right? The warrior respects even his opponent. Okay. Well, I get it, right? There's two different types of respect, at least, right? In this context, there's the respect that mommy taught us, or grandma, or whoever was your influential person, right? Do unto others as you would have done unto you, whatever, right? Well, if we all acted that way, I'd be out of a job, at least in this realm, right? Well, I'd be out of a job all the way around. I'd be doing something else in the world, because even my workplace violence consultancy teaches people how to deal with uber violent people that come in to want to, shoot up the place or whatever. But there's that, right? But that's Dragon Realm. That's how we operate in society. There's a lot of people in the martial arts that are assholes. They show very little respect, or they have that warped, asinine belief that I only show respect to those who show me respect. Okay, well, I understand where you're coming from. However, what if they don't know any better? What if they didn't get that lesson? Okay, how does you not showing respect unless they show it to you make you better than them? To me, it makes you worse, because they may not know any better. You're doing it on purpose. Right? How about if I show respect regardless of whether they show me respect or not, and with a smile on my face? Okay, because now everybody that sees that exchange will see the difference, and not just two assholes mistreating each other, trying to be one-upmen. Okay, but the other side of respect for a warrior, the side that most people don't think about, and Hatsumi Sensei used to teach on this stuff all the time, was respecting their intent to do you harm. And so I am going to position myself and act in a way that makes it difficult for them to do that. I respect their intent to do harm. This thing that I just covered, the battlefield thing, right? I'm taking their life, and then last second I give it back. That is a self-protection, strategic move. I respect this guy's intent to do me harm. If I try to win a fight the same way most people try to win fights, what happens tomorrow, or the day after that, or the day after that? Right? So respect isn't always about being nice any more than compassion's about always being nice. Compassion is doing what somebody needs, giving somebody what they need to grow, to move forward, to move ahead. Has nothing to do with being nice. It might in that moment come across as nice or pleasant or whatever, but that's not always the case. Some people don't need nice. Some people need a good swift kick in the ass. They may hate you for the rest of their lives, but a lesson will have been conveyed, and now they will act differently because they don't know who else might step forward and kick them in the ass because they were an asshole. Okay? So, again, we have to be careful how we define things. Okay? So anyway, same lesson, but from the dragon realm. And again, the words are going to be different, but I need you to look past the words to see the essential nature, right? Because this is about balance. It's about balance within you and the ability to produce results that are far beyond or outside the moment. And for a lot of people, looking at these lessons or trying to get their head wrapped around them, right? Me too in the beginning, right? It's going to sound so counterintuitive. Like, shit, I got the guy. Why would I give him his life back? Well, see, if I kill him, it seems like it's over. Except he has family. He has friends. Or back in the day, he had a clan. Whatever. Okay? But see, we have to be able to think strategically. We have to understand if we're going to be warriors, we need to be able to maneuver a battlefield and to be able to see the battlefield and not just the rocks and trees and whatever around us in the moment. Okay. It's a difference between drafting foot soldiers in a village, putting shit in their hands, putting them in the front lines and say, hey, go kill as many of them as you can before you die. Meanwhile, I'm going to sit back here on my horse and watch what they're doing in relationship to that first push. And now the seasoned vets get to move in and make very different decisions. Okay. So on the other side, the lesson from the Gyokko-Ryu is to live a life in balance and with harmony, right? Being kind, those kind of things, right? Even to one's enemy. As a matter of fact, sometimes it's worded that you always meet the enemy with a smile on your face. You can do that on the battlefield too, because nothing freaks out somebody who wants to beat, break, or kill you like you smiling at them. Okay? And I don't mean a big cheesy, like goofy smile kind of thing. Just that slightly upturned corners of your mouth. For those of you in Mikyo, if you've ever looked at the statuary, right, these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, their corners of the mouth are ever so slightly turned up, right? Their eyes are closed, shaded, and the corners of the lips are ever so slightly turned up, right? Because it's the look, it's the facial expression of somebody who gets it. Okay. So what you are very subtly conveying is, right, I know something that you don't know. I see something you can't see. I have a plan. Okay. And so while the other guy might be yelling and screaming or whatever, right? What you're doing is conveying things in a way that shakes them on the inside a little bit, right? What does he know? What am I missing? Right? If you start looking around, see if he's got friends, that's when he may attack, right? But there's this thing, right? But we can do the same thing in everyday life, right? Because just because someone's your enemy Doesn't mean that they're not useful. Doesn't mean that they can't help you get things done. Okay? We don't have to like each other, but we have a common problem. It needs to be solved. So we don't even have to talk to each other, but how about if we, right? I've been on things in the town, right? We've worked on things, and there's been some people there that, right? There's a neighbor that I have that has damaged my property and whatnot, but he was there. We were there for the same reason. What I'm going to say, I can't work if I'm not working on this, if this guy's not here or whatever, and I'm trying to force whoever is running the thing to get him to leave. Well, now this whole cause is being harmed because of my self-serving needs, and now we're one body, or he leaves and 10 of his friends leave. Well, what fucking good does that serve, right? Or I'm not, my family's not helping because he's here. Well, again, right? Is this about the cause you're there to serve, or is this about a grievance, right? So we can both work on things. We can both smile. We can both say, hi, how are you, right? Can you hand that to me? Sure, here you go, right? Doesn't make us friends. Doesn't make us like each other. But for the sake of what's happening and what's going on, we can come together. See, people that think that have a problem, they're dualistic thinkers, right? It can't be both at the same time. If it's this, then it can't be that. If it's that, it can't be this, right? Well, hard time with this, right? Same with people who need to be right, right? I can be right, but I also understand the difference between acting out of a sense of righteousness. I'm not working on this project if douchebag's a part of this, and how that's different from rightness. My etiquette, my politeness, the way I carry myself and whatnot is the right thing to do because it speaks to who I am, not to who they are, right? If I'm an ass, or I'm right? This guy's whatever, right? But how many people in this group know anything about this story? So what am I going to do? Waste everybody's time for an hour and a half filling them in while we could be working on this project, right? And since they don't know, if I act like an ass, what if he just stands there smiling? Not condescendingly, just like, this is not the place for this. This is not the time for this, right? We're not here for that. Who's going to look bad? Me, right? These warriorship goes way beyond fighting fist for fist, knife for knife, whatever, right? And again, strategic thinking, tactical maneuvering, those kind of things, right? And while the words are different and the scenarios seem different, it's the same. It's still balance, right? And in that instance, okay, yes, my neighbor and I keep our distance, okay? Because he has yet to pay for the damage, even after he's promised to. And while I was getting my house back together post-fire, I didn't have the extra resources to mount a lawsuit or whatever. And at the moment, my resources are going to growing this stuff so that I can help more people in the world. But he knows. He's maneuvered his activities relative to my property and what he used to do. All that's changed. He doesn't set up in the same places. There's just all the things that he did that contributed to the damage. He doesn't do anymore because I exchanged a few words. They were very professional, by the way, right? There's no threat of harm, not that way. But there was that look. And so If he does see me out in public, there's a sheepish smile, and I'm sure he talks badly about me. Right? We hear it. Their house, there's literally what 6 to 8 feet between the windows in our dining room and the windows in his dining room, and so every once in a while he gets a little heated and whatever, right? But that's okay. He can dislike me as long as he stops invading my space and damaging the property that I work hard to provide for my family. So anyway, it looks different, but it's still a battle. And at least from my perspective, when we're in those situations, I do give him his life back. I give him his life back by not saying anything about it. I smile, I nod. He has no idea what I'm thinking. He has no idea what the plans are. Right? He gets to have that moment, maybe that moment of anxiety or thought, trying to second guess, but then life swoops in and he gets to live his life and not be worried about it again until we bump into each other accidentally. So the Gyokko-Ryu, right? If you think about this tiger, the essential nature of a tiger. Is a tiger always hunting? Is a tiger always attacking? No. There's lots of things. There's lots of aspects, right? In the Gyokko-Ryu, there is it's a long ass name for a kamae. I'm not going to go into it, right? We truncated it to kohen, right? Kohen no kamae is a grounded position where somebody is kind of like in a cat-like position on their hands and knees because they've got knocked down or they were getting up off the floor, whatever. It's a long name, right? And probably my students would not like to know the whole name of it because it's a pregnant tigress protecting its unborn young. Okay. But that's a mindset. It's a watchfulness, not wanting to engage. So there's certain cues and clues that the cat gives off to keep threats at bay because it knows that if it engages, even if it wins, its unborn child is in jeopardy. See, it's thinking beyond the fangs and the claws. There's more to the essential nature of a tiger than just being ferocious and strong and able to pounce. Okay, so there's one more thing that I want to do. I have a couple of questions and whatnot that's not related to this. It's related to other things that we're working on. But questions, comments, try to type something, even if you're foaming at the mouth, you feel like your brain is, your skull is cracking. James, do you have anything to throw on top of this? I mean, what does this kind of make you think of or stir up based on either lessons in class or other things that, you bumped into? How is this different from other martial arts you've done?
Hmm.
You hate to put you on the spot.
Oh, yeah.
Tough. It's my job.
I mean, it's different as in like no place I've been before would ever really cover anything like this.
Well, in all honesty, there's a very small percentage of people within this realm as well that cover everything. And this is not about me, right? Because I couldn't do this if my teachers didn't do it. Couldn't do this if Hatsumi Sensei didn't do it. I couldn't do this if Takuma Sensei didn't pass it on that way. I couldn't do this if, right? So it's not about me. I'm just, I'm not just the messenger, but this is, I could have, like so many others, I could have dismissed this side of the training and we wouldn't be having the same conversation. Of course, 60, 70% of our Kuden wouldn't be what they are. because we wouldn't be covering this aspect. But a lot of people don't tune into this, and a lot of people dismiss it because if we're not in uniforms slugging it out, then, right, this is bullshit, right? Stop talking. This is not, right? Hatsumi Sensei always said, stop talking and train. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Okay. But there's other things that he did as well. And here's the funny part. He tells people stop talking and train. And the people that want to just do the physical stuff, they gravitate to those lessons. But they ignore the fact that a third to half of Hatsumi Sensei's classes, when he's actually teaching, is not a physical demonstration. He's explaining something very deeply. But we'll just edit those parts out and just his next variation, next variation, next variation. Yeah. Well, what about the whys? Okay. Anyway, anything from anybody? No?
Dave said these lessons are why I prefer this art. The combat is fun, but the strategic thinking is more useful in everyday life. It is rare for an adult to get into fights unless they are screw-ups.
Yeah, well, you know, the way this was introduced to me, and I think one of the reasons why I gravitated to it was that my teachers, I don't want to say pushed, but they led with professionalism. And the full lessons, right? The full thing is really for people who want to live a successful, professional. When I say professional, I don't mean you need to be a lawyer, doctor, whatever. I mean an upstanding, classy kind of life, right? Where, and again, when I say classy, I don't mean that you don't get to dress in blue jeans and shit kicker boots and stuff like that. I mean, you have a family or you people that you care about and you're protecting and whatever. You're not you're not bar hopping every Saturday night. You're not, you're not getting into piss ass arguments with people on a regular basis, right? You're living to the essence of what Takamasa Sensei meant when he said, only those who have something to lose, only those who truly have something to lose can ever really understand what it means to be a warrior. Somebody has nothing to lose. They fighting, right? I mean, if they lose the fight, lost the fight. If they win the fight, there's an upside to that. To people that have something significant to lose, job, family, loved ones, nice life, whatever, there's only a downside. And it can go sideways and downhill very fucking fast. Right? So there's a certain mindset that's looking for, right? And is drawn to this side of things. But I do have to point out that the Freudian slip that, the fighting stuff was fun. You said that, so I just picked up on that right away. Not saying it isn't, but when I say that something is fun, I don't mean like I enjoy fighting. I don't, because I'd be a sport fighter if I did. But the line that has to be crossed for me to act, and that plays into this Gyokko-Ryu idea, this goes beyond pissed off and angry, conventional anger. And this goes to a point where that smile comes back, but it's a subconscious, unconscious facial micro expression that conveys a sense of enjoyment in the handling of this thing. People have looked at me or addressed me after things like this and you're going to go end up in jail or whatever. And the smile comes right back. And I say, I will sit there on that bed with a big old smile on my face. And it's not because I'm in prison. It's because the person that I had to deal with that caused me to be here will never, ever be able to do what they did ever again. That is the smile of satisfaction, not the smile of, I don't know, playful glee or whatever. However, if we were talking about the Kukishinden school, there is a sense to that fun, right? There's a whole side to that training where the idea is think about being as powerful as one god, but here you got 9 gods and they're demons on top of that, which means that they pretty much do whatever the hell they want because they're not led by any kind of moral or ethical code, right? So you got that kind of power, and here comes Joe Cool Dickhead. And I mean, if you had that kind of power, you could wink this person out of existence in a microsecond. But then what are you going to do? Because if you had that kind of power, like your entire life would be in absolute order. There's nothing you couldn't want for, need, whatever, without having it just like that. Sorry, I know how cool that sounds, but it only sounds like that to people who don't have it. It's kind of like teenage girls getting complimented on their looks. They love it until it's happened 20, 30, 40, 50 fucking times. And that's when they turn into what guys call bitches. Can't you be original? Nice eyes. No shit. The last 49 guys told me the same thing. They're now looking for original because it gets old. It gets boring. It's the same thing if you had that much power. Sorry. Be like being on a perpetual vacation. It'd be cool. Only to people who aren't on fucking vacation often enough. Right? James and I had talked about this on a regular basis, right? There's a line that gets crossed where I need to get back and get stuff done because I now am without purpose. No, man, my purpose is to lay. No. Be personality types that rub me the wrong way. Those are the people that want to be on a perpetual vacation because you know what? Their vacations are just the same shit they do every day in a different location. Just fucking lay around. Can't wait to get off work so I can lay around. Can't wait to stop doing the long work so I can lay around. Can't wait to... Holy shit. I'm sorry. I can't do that. I'm not telling those people that that's all wrong. But you know what? If the world were run by that same personality type, we'd still be fucking living with horse and buggies. At best. All right. So anyway. All right. Anything else, James? Anybody yet? To piss anybody off? It's bound to happen.
No. Trinity came in with a question.
That's my daughter. She should know everything already. No, never mind. Anyway, sorry.
This is something that I struggle with as a woman of smaller stature. It's difficult, even in serious situations that I've been in, to be taken seriously. Either I portray the victim and promote my own weakness, or I give the warning and bait unintentionally the attack. How can I deal with this? This being in confrontations faced in, quote, nightlife situations. We're supposed to avoid the fight, but how do I do that when I'm apparently walking bait for confrontations in that setting?
Okay, so sorry, I'm going to use this word anyway because she's my daughter. So, baby, listen up. Okay, so one, you're in law enforcement, or you're going to be in that realm and adjacent realms. So, develop cop eyes. There's certain cues and signals that confident people present which can be intimidating, and I'll cover that in a minute. But one is, even if you're lost, look like you know where you're going. And if you don't know how to do that, then stop and scan the area and just look like you're surveying your domain. You're just surveying the scene. You're checking things out. Okay? It gives you time to get your bearings. And 2, you don't look like you're lost. Okay? 3, check your posture. Okay? There's a whole science around body language. And one of those is if you and again, this is part of know thyself and how you operate and whatnot. And some folks, this is they would be abnormal to this, and they're the ones that convey weakness on a regular basis. Okay, shoulders are slumped, they can't make eye contact. Right, average eye contact for a human being who is dealing with people that they know, and even with strangers, right, is 1 to 4 seconds. Okay, and I know that's a big spread or whatever, but practice holding eye contact longer. And if you can't hold eye contact, then look right here. Okay. If you're listening audio only, I'm pointing to the point right between my eyes, right between my brow. Okay. So at normal conversation distance, an average person won't know whether you're looking them right in the eye or whether you're looking at that point. So if you're slightly intimidated or you're, low anxiety, whatever. Okay. And you can't bring yourself to look at somebody's eyes, then look right between the eyes, look right above the nose, right where the glasses sit, kind of thing, right there. Okay. Because you will look like you have a steely gaze. But you also have to be mindful that you break that gaze every no longer than 4 to 6 seconds, because after that, depending on the brain wiring, right? And I'm gonna be dualistic here because I'm not playing the 87, 131 mindsets, genders, on whatever. Okay. So this just goes to sexual attraction. Okay. If we were talking about opposite genders, normal, heterosexual, whatever, but it could be homosexual too, whatever. Okay. So if it's in the realm of attraction, if we hold that stare, even if you're looking right here, right, for more than 4 to 6 seconds, it conveys to that person that you have certain thoughts about them, if you know what I'm saying. If it is opposing attractors, let's say it's guy to guy, okay? Like if I hold my gaze on a woman for 4 to 6 seconds, right? A little bit longer than that, right? It's sending attraction signals, okay? And she's going to do what she does based on that, right? And this is where most guys go wrong with it, right? They'll look and then they'll keep breaking eye contact because they don't want to look like a stalker. But the reality is when you keep breaking eye contact, you give her the willies and you look like a stalker, okay? But if you just make eye contact like you're looking her over, everything's different, right? But if I did that to a guy, right, unless he were gay, sorry, I'm talking about attractors here, okay? If this were heterosexual, guy to guy, woman to woman, or whatever, and you hold that gaze for more than 4 to 6 seconds, now their brain triggers a response that this person wants to fight me. So you got 2 F possibilities. Okay. So, but I want to hold that longer. I want to look like I know what I'm doing. And also, if you can make sure that your head is up, okay, you don't have to like lift it too high, but there's an air of uber confidence. And again, I'll talk about personality types here in a second, but at least have your head and jawline level, okay? Because that conveys to the human mind that that person is confident and comfortable in their own skin. They are perfectly okay with being where they are, right? They're there by choice, okay? So again, there's all these little descriptors, okay? Relax as much as possible without slouching the shoulders, okay? Anxiety produces stiffness. Stiffness conveys, right, discomfort, okay, victimhood. So there are these little things here, okay? So that's the obvious outward signals that you could work on. Okay. And also, when you're talking to your friends and whatnot, like look around, but look around like you're looking for somebody. Okay. Not like you're like looking around, not like you're craning your neck or whatever, just kind of scanning around like you're just kind of, again, surveying the scene. That conveys that you're paying attention to your surroundings. Okay. So you're harder for somebody to get the jump on. Okay. So anybody who's an opportunist, that's going to be difficult. Okay. So that's some things for the outward, the omote side of things, right? For the inward, right? I'm going to hold that for a minute. Did she respond at all to whether or not that made sense? That was that helpful to anybody else other than Trinity?
She hasn't said anything yet.
Okay, well, that's maybe she'll get things wrapped around. Okay, there's an inner side to it, but this isn't just about. It's not the inside of you. I mean, you can always be working on you and your own sense of confidence and things like that, right? Because if about dangers. I mean, you grew up with me. I didn't go out of my way to make you paranoid or whatever. However, I did enforce the requirement that you would learn martial arts and learn how to protect yourself, because I know what kind of dangers are in the I know all too well what kind of dangers in the world. And I also worked in areas where if people knew what kind of things we stopped from happening that never made it to the news, they would never have a restful night's sleep ever. But ignorance is bliss, right? So, but the internal thing that I'm talking about, and we can get to personal stuff later, but what I want you to start doing, if you can do this just through memory, reflective exercises, but it might also be helpful to do it with some journaling or whatever, right? And again, this is not internal journaling for you. This is looking at those past experiences, because you gave me a couple of options. Sometimes this happens with certain people, sometimes this happens. Okay. I want you to start thinking about those things, remembering them, and reflecting on them when they happen. Okay. Because there's an element that a lot of people don't think about. Ego wants things to be nice and cut and dry. I want to learn this thing that works all the time. It's just fucking easy, but it's also lazy. Okay. But life doesn't work that way. Okay. I'll give you, for instance, right? And this goes even for my kids. I've got some that think that I'm confident all the time. And now they've also seen me cry. The only time they've ever seen me cry is when I lost my kids in a legal issue. And I don't mean lost them. I mean, like, things happened, and James, you know what I'm talking about. And if anybody's ever been through that kind of thing, then you know what I'm talking about, right? I fought the fight, and so anyway, the thing that you need to factor in is the difference in personalities. So here's where I'm going with this. Okay. I've never been told or called arrogant. I've always been called confident, except by two types of people. Okay. The two types of people that see me as arrogant and see most confident people that I would associate with, and we're confident, we laugh it up, we enjoy life and all that, but we're also very directed, and we also have lines, right? If you agreed to do something, then and James knows. James has helped me for a long time, and I have other people that volunteer and help and whatnot. And more often than not, I convey you didn't fulfill on the thing you said you were going to do. I usually do that with humor first and a soft touch. And even I don't know that you've ever even heard me, not toward you ever, but in your presence, I don't know that you've ever even heard me get super stern, like, you know, I don't even know how I would express that. I mean, I know how I would express it, but fair, mean, yelling, whatever. Um, there has been a soft. You probably have been around for a soft. I understand if things are too overwhelming and you can't do it. You just need to tell me so I can put somebody in there that can. Because this is not a. This is not a. Um, I don't operate based on somebody having three choices as to whether they'll do their job or not. If you agreed to do something, then what we have is a can't or won't if it's not getting done, right? If it's a can't issue, that's my problem, right? It means you're not trained and you, you're not able to produce the results, but you're trying. That's a me issue. Now it's a training issue, right? If it's a won't issue, that's not a me thing, right? And there's the door. So if somebody's not getting the job done, then okay, so what's your plan for getting the job done on time, right? Like, who knows? Pick something, James. Monthly newsletter, whatever, right? Videos up, whatever, right? What's your job? What's your plan for getting that done? Or what's your plan for transitioning out so I can get somebody else in there that can do it? Well, I don't have one. Okay, let me ask that again. What's your plan for fixing this so that the job is done on time? Or what's your plan for transitioning out of this department, out of this job, out of this position, whatever? I don't have one. Well, you need to pick one because I think you think there's a third option. And the third option is you'll just keep doing what you're doing and the rest of us will have to work around you. No, because the third option is I'll pick one for you and it's not, you won't be readjusting your day to get the job done on time. But a lot of managers can't bring themselves to do things like that because they don't handle conflict well. But if we're all on the same team, any team is only as strong as the weakest link. And if we're moving forward, we don't move forward with anchors down. Or I'll get around to it. Not on my goddamn team, you won't. Go start your own goddamn team. We see how well that's working. Okay? So, see, it can go up from there, but you haven't experienced that from me, have you? No, because it's just, right? But the two types of people that see the confidence as arrogance are people with extreme insecurity, right? Low self-esteem, where they're high anxiety, afraid of most things. So, and we've talked about this in the past when it comes to like Miko training and looking at the mandala, right? Most people think they know extremes, but if I'm an extreme, let's say I'm extreme left, right? I think I know what extreme right is all about, except that extreme to me, from my perspective, way over here, right? The opposite extreme is actually neutral. So moderates or independents are going to look like they're freaking extreme to the other side. They have no idea what the other side looks like. Okay. So these people are easily triggered because confidence looks like arrogance, bullying, whatever. I've heard people in this realm that called me a bully because I told them they weren't keeping up their end of the bargain and the team was struggling because they weren't doing their job. Well, you're bullying. No, I'm holding you accountable. Right? Well, they didn't like being talked to that way. Well, right. Okay. Now we have a problem. The second type of person that sees relaxed, confident people as arrogant are control freaks because they can't just run through and get their own way all the time. And their agenda is easily seen. It's easily identified. So the thing, Trent, is to start looking at the types of people and to see if you can't match up personality types that return things a certain way or whatever, because then we can start looking at specific like scripting and body language and approaches based on you reading personality types. Okay. Does that make sense, James? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ego wants this to be easy, right? If you've ever had somebody come to you, they know that you're doing martial arts or whatever, right? Self-defense. What would you do if somebody throws a punch at your face? Why are they punching me? Well, I don't know. They're just punching you. Well, see, what's my relationship to them? What the hell does that matter? They're trying to punch you. Okay. Well, if it's my kid, right? If it's my grandson when he was little, right? And now he's 4, so he's gone through a little phase where he's trying to play the superhero and whatnot. He comes up and he'll pop me, right? He'll go, "Gotcha, Grandpa." Oh, yeah, you did. Okay. I'm going to take the punch. Okay. Context, right? Why are they punching me? What's our height differential? Is it a jab? Is it a right cross? How far away are they? Right? What's my job? What's my position? What's the environment I'm in? Throw this motherfucker right on the ground. Really? In the middle of your workplace. So now you got 2 people fighting and you're both out of a job. Explain that to the wife or family. Can't feed you this week, kids. Unemployment hasn't kicked in. Oh, shit. Can't get employment. I got fired. And it was a criminal act. Okay. So again, this is Budo. When Hatsumi Sensei says this is real Budo, he's not just talking about the blades and the fist, right? Because he also said and says, right, Budo is life. Budo is a living thing. Budo is about life. You can't study Budo without studying life. Okay? Without studying engagements, without studying interactions, right? Without studying interpersonal dynamics. Now, do you have to study those things to the depth that I or others have? No, of course not, right? Right? But that's why we've done it, so you don't have to, right? We can point these things out. You can look around and go, yep. Oh, wait, there's an exception. Sensei, there's a, okay, look at this little piece. Oh, shit. Okay. Okay. So, yeah. Anyway, did she respond or anything?
Yes, she said, "It's helping. I'm taking notes, and it worked. I'm now the you of my friend groups. I tell them everything they've never heard to make sure they are as safe as they can be."
Look at that. You're not even a black belt yet. Imagine what you're going to be like after you've really internalized this stuff. Trin just got re-involved, serious and all that, but from the adult perspective, because she's like, most of her training with me was always through the youth stuff, and there were lots of things that we didn't cover, like this stuff, because kids aren't ready for it. They don't process it the same way, right? So here we are. Right. Anything else come in? Is this helpful to anybody else other than Trinity?
Dave said, yes, the body language stuff is very cool. He also said on vacation you get pineapple drinks. So
You get pineapple what?
you get pineapple drinks on vacation.
Shut up, man. No. That's funny. Maybe it's not funny. Maybe Dave now wants to punch me. Damn it, I am coming to spring camp just so I can jack you up. Okay. I'm cool. Anyway. Okay, so anything else? Nothing else?
Trinity just said I'm working on it.
Cool beans. Right, because you're the man. Okay, so quick question, right? So I am always trying to make sure that folks who are at least coming to me for things, right, are getting what they need. And while I understand that sometimes we don't know what we need, but we'll know it when we see it, or we can't put it into words or whatever. Okay. So I am looking at right now creating a lot of people like a previous episode. I tossed it out there. I'm going to be doing one of two different Mikio things coming up. Right. I gave option A, option B. A bunch of people responded. So I guess the next thing that we'll be doing starting in a couple of weeks is something called the Goshinbo, which is psychological self-defense. It's kind of a bridge to Mikyo or Mikyo, not a Mikyo, Kuji light kind of thing. Um, so anyway, but what I want to do is what I'm working on right now is putting together a kind of a free guide. I know, free, more free stuff, but a free guide for who I think are the people that engage with what I'm doing much better. Okay. But what I'm really looking for are like the things that would be the most significant. So I have two questions, right? And you can either answer now through comments, or you can shoot us an email, comment later, whatever. We'll try to get caught up on all these things. But the first one is really kind of wrapped around my recognition. Again, knowing human beings, right? It's why Hatsumi Sensei was able to do what he was able to do. Part of what I'm, still working on with all this stuff. But people tend to not act, right? People act. And those of you who've gone through the Mikyo and pre-Mikyo studies, this is like lesson 0, right? People tend to act, buy things and roll in things, make choices, whatever, based on one of two things. One is to increase the positive, right? To gain happiness, some kind of benefit or whatever that makes them, I'm just going to pare it down to happy, right? And that could just mean that, right, they've got more skills, they've got more power, they can produce success easier, they're skilled in a certain realm, whatever. That's still, whatever, right? If we stop and ask the question, or we think about things that we've said or we've heard other people say, right? If I could just have that thing, then I'd be happy. If I could just get this, then I'd be happy, right? Whatever, okay? So the other side of things is to avoid pain, to avoid the negative, which if I'm avoiding it, then I'm at least maintaining a level of comfort or happiness. Okay. So here's the thing, right? What is it that you think this training gives you or does for you that allows you to maintain, sustain, or gain more happiness, more power, more, however you define that? Okay. So that's question number 1. I know it was a really long one. However, there's that one. Okay. And the second one is really based around the fact that I have 2 primary things, a third one in my head at the moment of a guide that I want to put out for long distance people that are trying to learn this art, but they don't have a teacher in their area, right? So what I really want to do is put out something that at least gets the ball rolling and gives them something that can help them be more successful in their attempt at learning or mastering or whatever, right? Needed to long distance, right? So I'm going to toss out a couple, and if none of them match, let me know that as well, right? But if they do, or they're in the ballpark, which one sounds like it would be the one that you would? Now, don't tell me that one is one, but you only click on things because it's freaking free, and you're just going around gathering free shit. But it's just going to sit on your, your hard drive. But you got that free thing, right? So the first one, and I don't know the number yet because I'm going through, because I've always been a long distance student, right? And here's the thing that I don't think most people get, right? I've never had a home dojo. I started the dojos, okay? So I've always been long distance for my teachers. Minimum 9-hour drive, maximum halfway around the planet, okay? So I think I'm uniquely positioned to be able to help people in that same kind of condition be able to get, well, I don't know that I can get you to Dai Shihan, but I can get you to at least a first and second degree black belt, if not farther than that. But, mastering Ninjutsu as a long distance student, been there, done that, leapt over all the hurdles, right? Including spouses that don't understand and family and money and all kinds of issues, right? So, option one that got percolating in my head is my fill in the blank with, I'll come up with a number of steps. At the moment, I'm just going to throw in the word or the number 7, right? So, my 7-step guide to, or a checklist to, mastering ninjutsu as a long distance student. Okay. 2, a free guide or lesson for how to set up a training area when you don't have a dedicated area or room to train. And at the moment, my brain glitched and I can't remember the third one. So those are the two. Are either one of those sound attractive enough that if I gave you a checklist of things, right, that here are the things that I did, right? No dojo in my area. The only time there's ever been a dojo in my area is I opened it. I started it. Same thing, training group, whatever. Okay. That or the how to set up a training area when you don't have the area to try the space to train. We'll give you a couple of minutes for this, and then we're gonna have to wrap things up because I think we got like 2 minutes before we gotta wrap this up. But either way, James, any answers coming in? Anything? And while we're waiting for those, I'll one more time remind everybody this Wednesday coming up, February 28th from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, I am doing a Foundations of Shuriken Mastery workshop. It's only a 2-hour workshop focusing on the Hira Shuriken, specifically the 4-pointed Shuriken. I don't know that I have some Senbon, and we'll talk about it a little bit. That was a secret weapon of the Togakure school, but specifically the 4-point Shuriken, why less points equals more. Togakure tended to use the 4-point and a 3-point Shuriken. We're going to do some things with throwing, handheld, all that kind of stuff, breaking people of the habit of thinking of the Shuriken like a damn frisbee. Right, like they're going to be standing in one place and throwing it at something that's stationary, whatever. Right, and going into those. That's again this one coming up. If you go to onlineninjaacademy.com/events, it's the first event listed. Right, there's a virtual option, there's a live option. Virtual option is a little bit cheaper because you don't get the practice throwing stars that I'm including for those who are live, but everybody that registers will be getting a digital copy of my Shuriken training manual, which goes into things a little more deeply. And then April 26th, 27th, 28th is our spring camp. That is the second event that's down. And there's also a link to a dedicated page that goes into things a little bit more deeply for those who want more than just a quick outline, but there are some topics listed. What's not listed on there are the breakout sessions that guest instructors will be doing during that weekend as well, right? And right now, if you enroll before the end of the month, before March 1st, there's a 30% discount on things, and there is a payment plan. So there's that. Okay, back to you, James.
Trinity said yes to both. And Dave said training area guide is always helpful. I have my own ideas, but I know there are maybe better ones you would have.
Yeah. We'll see. Is that it? That's all we have?
That's it right now.
All right. Yeah, you guys can shoot emails or whatever. For those of you who are listening audio only, and you're not on Facebook or you're not on a platform that you can do those kind of things. We find it very, very difficult to track down all of the even the main ones that we have listed to look at comments or whatever. We probably should, James. We probably should put that on our list to at least look at that stuff once a week, at least Spotify and Pandora and stuff, to see if anybody's leaving anything. But you can shoot an email to warriorc@warrior-concepts-online.com. Just in the subject field or whatever, just put training guide idea or something like that. So and let us know what your thing is. If there's something else, right? A lot of you have been through other people's programs. You've seen other people's programs. You see other things that are out there, whatever. If there's something that is missing that you would really wish was in some of these freaking programs, right? Let me know what they are, right? Because there might be a reason that they're not there because it's not a part of this art, or it's not conducive. But it also might not be there because a lot of folks, were training group or dojo, or they always flew off to seminars or whatever, which, by the way, is one of the steps that'll be in there. But either way, but there, if there's something that's missing that you really wish were a part of the freaking programs, or there's something that you really need, right? There's a problem or an obstacle or whatever that's really in the way. Let me know those things too, right? No, there's some that, I'm not in the get rich quick scheme, business or anything like that. But, you'll at least get an answer back from me, even if it's not something that I can turn into a full thing for a lot of people, right? Anyway, that's what I have. Anything else, James, before we wrap this up?
No, sir.
Hey, look, it's both of us. You're taller still again. Anyway, all right. So that's it then. I guess we're going to wrap this up. Okay. So there's another one in the can. Don't forget two episodes. So 2 weeks from now, right? Not next Monday, but the Monday after that. As long as I'm still alive, right? And we're still doing these things, then we will be doing something. I don't know what it is yet, but we'll be doing something for our 200th episode of Kuden. That will be cool. So hopefully you'll join in. I don't know. I don't know what we'll do, right? We'll fight off Koga Ninja or whatever, right? Which reminds me, I don't know if Victor's on or not, but Victor sent me a freaking joke just before. Did you see it? He sent me a joke just before the freaking episode went live, right? You know how you had to tell if you're fighting the enemy ninja? They're drinking Coca-Cola. That was, I just had to do the, head slap freaking emoji and send it back to him. But anyway, all right. And with that, we will end this one on that note. All right. So I will talk to everybody again next time on Kuden.
Get more of Kuden Radio, subscribe through your favorite podcasting site, or join our clan of serious modern warriors at onlineninjaacademy.com.